Today, guys, we're going to be talking all things Blake Lively and her legal complaint that she's filed against her It Ends With Us co-star, Justin Baldoni. Yes, the It Ends With Us movie drama does in fact not end, and if you're not caught up, I'm going to get you caught up. What's interesting about this story to me is the Justin Baldoni of it all. He is a self-proclaimed male feminist, he's woke, he speaks out against sexual assault and sexual harassment, even toxic masculinity, and now in this legal complaint filed by Blake Lively, he's being accused of sexual harassment. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. Yes, again, we're going to be talking about It Ends With Us, an illegal complaint that has been born out of this project that Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni worked on together. Now, if you're not familiar, It Ends With Us is a book written by Colleen Hoover. That book was adapted into a film starring Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni as the male and female leads, where they had a romance that devolved into domestic violence. That's really what the heart of the movie is about, interestingly enough. Harassment is centered to it, and now harassment is centered to this legal complaint that Blake Lively is filing against Justin Baldoni. Now, we all knew that there was some sort of drama happening between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively on the set of It Ends With Us, but we didn't get a real look into what was happening behind the scenes. Now, if you guys were following the It Ends With Us story, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this film. Many were upset about the casting of both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, saying it didn't fit the characters, but Blake Lively specifically was the center of a lot of negative press when it came to the PR tour for this film. The most prevalent bit of criticism that I saw for Blake Lively was her choice to market the film in a positive light. In many of her interviews, although she is a victim of domestic violence in this film, she said this was more about choosing not to be a victim, leaning more on the positive angles of this film. Famously, she told people to dress up in their florals and bring their friends to go see this film, and people did not want to hear that. Many domestic violence survivors came after her and said that she should talk more seriously about the elements of DV in this film, rather than talking about the positivity and choosing not to be a victim. I disagreed with that bit of criticism that Blake was receiving at the time. It felt like people were being a little bit sensitive to what she was saying out on the PR tour. But she was also criticized for promoting a hair care line at the time when it felt like maybe an insensitive thing to do. Also, old interview clips of her started circulating on the internet where she was labeled as a mean girl for apparently not treating the interviewer with respect. And if you're wondering why I'm recapping all of this, you will know in just a little bit. Needless to say, there was a lot of tension and controversy surrounding It Ends With Us, but nonetheless, the movie came out and it performed well. Now, fast forward to a few days ago where Blake Lively actually launched a legal complaint against Justin Baldoni that illuminated what was actually happening behind the scenes, or at least what was allegedly happening behind the scenes, that might have created a rift between these two individuals. We're going to read from Time magazine. It says here, Blake Lively has accused her It Ends With Us director and co-star Justin Baldoni of sexual harassment on the set of the movie and a subsequent effort to destroy her reputation in a legal complaint. The complaint, obtained by the Associated Press, which the New York Times reported, was filed Friday with the California Civil Rights Department, precedes a lawsuit. It named Baldoni, the studio behind the romantic drama It Ends With Us, and Baldoni's publicist among the defendants. In the complaint, Lively accused Baldoni and the studio of embarking on a multi-tiered plan to damage her reputation following a meeting in which she and her husband Ryan Reynolds addressed repeated sexual harassment and other disturbing behavior by Baldoni and a producer on the movie. The plan, the complaint said, included a proposal to plant theories on online message boards, engineer a social campaign, and place news stories critical of Lively. So there's the basic outline of the story. Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, they're acting together, they are co-directing in this project, and apparently Justin Baldoni was sexually harassing her at the time and creating a hostile work environment. They apparently had some sort of meeting about the sexual harassment and the alleged hostile work environment while on set. Lively came with demands for Justin and his producer, who's also worked with him on other projects. We'll get to that in just a moment. And I guess Justin Baldoni maybe felt a little bit uneasy about this list of demands, maybe thought he was going to get some negative press on the other end of this film or while he was shooting it, and decided to hire a PR crisis team to launch a smear campaign against Blake Lively. At least that's what she says happened. Now, before we get into the list of demands that Blake Lively had for Justin Baldoni, let's play a clip of Justin Baldoni in a TED Talk he did not too long ago, where he addresses toxic masculinity and sexual harassment.
I challenge you to see if you can use the same qualities that you feel make you a man to go deeper into yourself, your strength, your bravery, your toughness. Can we redefine what those mean and use them to explore our hearts? Are you brave enough to be vulnerable? to reach out to another man when you need help, to dive headfirst into your shame? Are you strong enough to be sensitive, to cry whether you are hurting or you're happy, even if it makes you look weak? Are you confident enough to listen to the women in your life, to hear their ideas and their solutions, to hold their anguish and actually believe them, even if what they're saying is against you? And will you be man enough to stand up to other men when you hear locker room talk, when you hear stories of sexual harassment, when you hear your boys talking about grabbing ass or getting her drunk? Will you actually stand up and do something so that one day we don't have to live in a world where a woman has to risk everything and come forward to say the words "me too"?
This is gonna be really awkward if these allegations are true. Really awkward indeed. Now, let's get into the allegations and this list of demands that Blake Lively apparently had for Justin Baldoni on set in regard to his behavior. I'll read a few. These all exist on the internet. You guys can go check it out if you want to read the full length of everything that was stated here and the full scope of the allegations against Justin Baldoni. But first, let's read these. 1, no more showing nude videos or images of women, including the producer's wife, to Blake Lively and or her employees. Now, when it says the producer's wife, they're actually talking about a producer on It Ends With Us by the name Jamie Heath, who is good friends with Justin Baldoni. They also have done a podcast together in the past, or maybe in the present, called Man Enough, where they talk about these elements of masculinity, toxic masculinity, standing up for women, what it means to be a good man for a woman, which is interesting given these allegations. That's what she's referring to when she says producer. 2, no more mentions of Mr. Baldoni's or Mr. Heath's previous pornography addiction or Blake Lively's lack of pornography consumption to Blake Lively or to other cast members. 3, no more discussions to Blake Lively and or her employees about personal experiences with sex, including as it relates to spouses or others. 4, no more mention to Blake Lively or her employees of personal times that physical consent was not given in sexual acts as either the abuser or the abused. 5, no more descriptions of their own genitalia to Blake Lively. 8 is really interesting. No more mention by Mr. Baldoni of him speaking to Blake Lively's dead father. Skipping to 11, an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Blake Lively is on set in scenes with Mr. Baldoni. Which that one's interesting because while on the press tour, an interviewer actually asked Blake Lively about her having to be the intimacy coordinator at times, to which Blake Lively responded something to the effect of, "That's not supposed to be happening, by the way." Meaning she's not supposed to be the intimacy coordinator. I'll read just a few more so you understand where we're going here. 13, no more improvising of kissing. All intimate touch must be choreographed in advance with Blake Lively and an intimacy coordinator. No biting or sucking of lip without Blake Lively's consent. And all intimate on-camera touch and conversations must be in character, not spoken from Mr. Baldoni to Blake Lively personally. 14, Blake Lively to have a representative on set at all times and with a monitor during scenes involving nudity, sexual activity, or violence with Mr. Baldoni. So yeah, it's alleged that Justin Baldoni would go into these scenes and improvise sexual acts that were not actually written. It's also alleged that he would not take on his character, Ryle. Instead, he would act as himself and pursue Blake Lively as herself during times where they were supposed to be acting. Now, it's alleged that Justin Baldoni sort of felt the heat of this meeting, knew that there could be negative press on the other end of this being publicized, and decided to hire a PR crisis team in order to launch a smear campaign against Blake Lively. It's alleged that he used this PR crisis team to leverage social media to push out negative stories about Blake Lively to lessen the heat on him if this story were to come out about sexual harassment in the hostile work environment. Now, this is where you'll hear the name Melissa Nathan. Melissa Nathan was working on this PR crisis team. She's also worked for Johnny Depp and Drake. So people are trying to make that tie to Justin Baldoni and say, look how awful Johnny Depp and Drake are, and now Justin Baldoni is working with this same woman. That's not a clear enough case for me. And again, I don't know whether any of these allegations are true. I always believe in innocent until proven guilty, so we'll wait to see what happens with this lawsuit. Nonetheless, let's get filled in. Now, in this legal complaint, there are screenshots of text messages messages between Justin Baldoni, Melissa Nathan, his publicist, where they discuss how they want Blake Lively to be perceived by the public and how they want Justin to be perceived by the public. In this text screenshot, Justin Baldoni allegedly sends a photo of a thread he found on X about Hailey Bieber, discussing her in a negative light. And he says, this is what we would need. He's referencing what they would need to find on social media about Blake Lively, what they would want to push on social media about Blake Lively to get her discussed in a negative light. Now, to that, somebody responds, yes, I literally spoke to Melissa about this on the break, about what we discussed last night for social and digital. Focus on Reddit, TikTok, Instagram. There are also conversations between Jennifer, his publicist, and Melissa, this PR crisis manager. Now, Jennifer says, so are we in the clear now? Did we survive? Melissa responds, we survived. All press is so overwhelming. We've confused people. So much mixed messaging. It's actually really funny if you think about it. Jennifer responds, the narrative online is so freaking good and fans are sticking up for Justin, and there literally has been no pickup of those 2 articles, which is actually shocking to me. But I see this as a total success, as does Justin. You did such amazing work. Melissa Nathan responds, narrative is crazy good. So did you. The majority of socials are so pro-Justin, and I don't even agree with half of them. LOL. It's not looking good. Again, I'm going to reserve judgment, but it's not looking good. Now, many people have come out in support of Blake Lively in the wake of this legal complaint being launched. Even the author of It Ends With Us, Colleen Hoover, has come out and said this in a statement. Blake Lively, you've been nothing but honest, kind, supportive, and patient since the day we met. Thank you for being exactly the human that you are. Never change, never wilt. Previous co-stars of Blake Lively have also come out in support of her after this legal complaint. It's also been announced recently that Justin Baldoni was dropped by his talent agency, WME, following these allegations. So the tide is definitely turning in a specific direction here. Now, I will say this again, while it doesn't look good for Justin Baldoni, I am always innocent until proven guilty, so I'll be interested to see how this lawsuit pans out a ways from now as they go through all the different elements of this complaint and Justin gathers evidence while Blake gathers hers. What I actually find really interesting is the juxtaposition between Justin Baldoni's public persona and some of the allegations against him that are made in this legal complaint. Justin Baldoni really comes off as this masculine role model. He identifies as a feminist. He speaks out against the ills that men perpetrate on women and on the world. He talks about speaking his emotions out, as men are so often trained not to do. He even has a podcast titled Man Enough, where he, and oftentimes his producer, Jamie Heath, who is also mentioned in this legal complaint, discuss the ideas of toxic masculinity and what it means to be man enough and show up as a good modern man in today's world. And if these allegations do turn out to be true, I won't be surprised at all. It is often the men who speak this way and try to position themselves in this way that have the most going on that they need to hide. They have skeletons in their closet. And Justin Baldoni sort of walks that tightrope of engaging with the feminist narrative and being a modern man, while also somewhat owning up to things that he has done that wouldn't be viewed in such a positive light. We actually have this clip from his Man Enough podcast.
In my experience, in my bubble of social media and my fan base, I'm looked at oftentimes as like this example of like what a man can be, or like how a woman should be treated by a man, or the way that I talk about my wife, or how present I am as a father, and all of the things that social media can paint. And yet, I'm an asshole sometimes. There are times when I will say something to my wife because I'm in my wound that, like, if there was a camera on, I would lose all my followers. I'd be canceled in a heartbeat because I'll say something out of my like ego that is mean. Luckily, because I do so much work, I can like stop time. I can, everything stops, and I go, what am I doing? And I can come back and be like, whoa, stop, I am so sorry. That is not you. Let me figure this out. So I say that because if I can do it, anyone can do it. I am no different. I am not some anomaly unicorn, as I've heard so many times. I am a dude that has all of the insecurities as every other dude. I just talk about them. I have all.
Okay. That's enough for me. I don't know how to feel about it. You know, I could see how this video could be perceived as being genuine. I'm not really a role model. I'm just like every other man. I make mistakes and I own up to those mistakes, and it's because of the work that I do. But he talks about how social media runs with that narrative about him. They label him as the role model. They put him as this positive example, and he has nothing to do with that. He's simply just doing the work. Meanwhile, this legal complaint alleges that he has a lot to do with the narrative that is pushed about him online, and that he in fact has people working for him that are responsible for propagating that narrative further, and maybe even launching a smear campaign against his co-star Blake Lively. We don't know yet though, so I'll just leave it at that. I will say, just for the record, I'm not a fan of either of these individuals, and something about both of them rubs me the wrong way, so I'm not sure what exactly the real truth is here, and hopefully the court of law can figure that out. But what is more interesting than all of this, what happened on It Ends With Us, is Blake Lively right? Is Justin Baldoni right? Are they both wrong? What's interesting is the social media manipulation. We've seen people move with the throes of these stories, defending Blake Lively, bringing Blake Lively down, defending Justin, bringing Justin down. And this all happens at the whims of other people who are puppeteering and pulling strings. It's like we're in the Matrix. You feel like you have some sort of agency over what you're seeing, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. But in reality, there's a PR crisis team working in the background that is making sure that certain stories take root and certain stories grow. It was happening at the beginning of this story. It was happening with everything now in this legal complaint, and it will be happening after, and virtually for all of time. So we've got to be really careful, because oftentimes there are people working behind the scenes who are fully capable of making you feel like you've had an original thought. You've actually birthed the idea that you are now sharing with your voice and your mind, when in reality, somebody is creating all of it for you, and they're force-feeding it to you. And in the age of social media and global networking, this is happening now more than ever before. So much so that I don't know what to believe with what's going on with these stories. All we can do is wait and see what happens, wait for more information to come out, hope that that information is actually coming from a reputable source that is not trying to manipulate us, and hope that we can engage with our own first principles to decide what we believe, what we think, and what we feel. Because there's constantly going to be somebody out there who is working overtime to manipulate us. But those are just my thoughts on this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama and the whole legal complaint. Let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, we only covered this lightly. If you want the full extent of the legal complaint, it is out there for you to view, and there's tons of reporting on it, so make sure you do that. If you like what I had to say in this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys. If you disagree with anything I said in this video, duke it out in the comments down below, but do so respectfully. We encourage healthy debate on this channel. And with that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, you better.